Hi, in this video we are going to cover how to use the pen tool in Illustrator. So the pen tool, and I'm not going to lie, it gets a little bit tricky. When you first start using the pen tool, it feels a little bit hard to control. So we're going to go over quite a few different little exercises here that hopefully get you more accustomed to using the pen tool. And then once you get used to using the pen tool, you should be able to make pretty much any shape that you want. So up until now, we've used the shape tool to create our shapes, just because it maybe feels a little bit simpler to start. But once you master this pen tool, you will, like I said, you'll be able to make any shape that you want, even complex shapes like, airplanes or cars or whatever the case may be. So just keep that in mind. It might feel a little bit unnatural to start, but practice, 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 and you will get much better. Okay, so these are just 6 different artboards filled with different little activities that we are going to go through that will teach you a little bit different things about using the pen tool. So we'll start with the first one, work our way through to the 6th one. And hopefully by the time we get to the 6th one, you should be pretty good at using the pen tool. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So I will hit Control plus on my keyboard and zoom in, and I got way too far. Okay, so for this first little activity here, we are going to create this star. We are going to do that using no fill and a 4-point stroke on our pen tool. So switch to the pen tool. Right now I have a fill color and no stroke. I want that to be the opposite. So I could just hit this little arrow right here and that swaps those. So now I have no fill, orange stroke. That's a 1-point stroke. So I'm going to increase the size of my stroke up to 4. And that's exactly what I want right there. So you can use this bright orange color if you want, or you can choose any other bright color. I would choose a bright color, not like light gray or anything like that. Okay, so we are set and we're ready to go. If you try making this star and you're noticing that you're getting an error message, just make sure that you make a new layer. I have this document set up with different layers for the individual artboards. Make sure you're working on a new layer. So if you don't see a new layer here, just make sure you can hit new layer, create new layer, and it will create a new layer for you. The pen tool is, the keyboard shortcut is P. Just if you hit the P on your keyboard, then that will get you your pen tool. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to follow these circles that make up my star, and that's why I have them there, just for your reference. Try to get your little pen dot in the center of the circle, but if you don't get it exactly in the center, it's not a big deal. They're just kind of guidelines for you. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click and release my mouse. Pull my mouse down here, click and release. Again, click and release, click and release, click and release. So all we're doing is making straight lines by clicking and releasing our mouse button. But those straight lines are all connected together. So this is a little bit different from using the line segment tool. So now this is a shape, and I could fill that easily with the color. So if I just swapped out my fill and my stroke color, I could fill that shape. And then this will act as one shape. That's not to say that I can't, however, alter the shape a little bit. If I wanted to, I definitely could drag around these anchor points. But we won't get into that too much. I just want you to be aware that you can still edit that later. So if you noticed, as I was creating my star, once I got back up to the place where I started, then I got a little circle. Like I will do another shape here real quick. We'll just do sort of a diamond, so you can see that. But when you see that I get back up to where I started, so I'm completing my path, I get that little circle at the bottom of my cursor, and that's exactly what I want. That means that that now is a full completed shape. So that's what you should see once you get to the top of your star. You don't need to make another square or anything. You just need to see that when you get to the top of your star and make sure that you complete your path. So as you can see, I must have changed one of my settings. My stroke is not 4 points. So I'm going to choose my selection tool and I will click on my star again and I will increase the size of my stroke to 4 points. So there we go. That's perfect. Let's move on to random curves. So here's my little example of a random curve. You can make really any shape that you want. For this exercise, all we're doing is practicing making curves. So if you remember from that star shape that we just did, all we did was click and move our cursor, click and move our cursor, click. So we're clicking and releasing to make a shape, and that makes straight lines. So now in this artboard, what you're going to do is you're going to make some curves. So I'm keeping my colors the same, and now I'm going to click and hold my mouse and drag out. So when I do that, I see my handles. That's what we call those. And those control my curve. So I'm going to click out and see my handles. Curve, curve, curve. So click and hold your mouse button. And notice that it makes those curvier shapes. So that is all you need to practice right here. Make whatever sorts of shapes you want. Just make a bunch of different shapes. Make sure that you find your starting point in order to complete your path. Otherwise, you're going to be trying to do other things and your pen tool won't let you. Okay, so make sure you get to that little point where you see that circle. So literally, that's what this artboard can look like when you're done, is just a bunch of curvy, weird shapes. That's perfectly fine. We're just practicing making curves. Okay, next artboard, we're going to create eggs or circles or ellipses or whatever you want to call them. So these are going to be a little bit more regularly shaped than those ones on the previous artboard. So to do that, I'm going to press and hold my shift key. So right now I'm pressing it in and I'm holding it. I'm going to click and drag out until I see those handles. And now that shift key will help me make more regularly shaped curves, because I can't put my handles at whatever angle I want. They're constrained to 45-degree angles. So that helps me out. I'm going to click and drag until my bottom handle about lines up with that first one that I made. The first handle. So I'm going to come over here and complete my path, but when I do so, I'm not releasing my mouse. I'm going to click and drag it out. And again, the pen tool is going to take some practice, so don't expect to hop in here and just start using it and have it work perfectly to start. It takes practice and it gets frustrating a little bit, and that's why we're doing a bunch of exercises to practice doing this. So if you're going through and you're just having a lot of trouble with this, do it twice, do it 3 times, do it 4 times. There are some games online where you can practice using the pen tool, and they're super helpful. So if you need to go ahead and do that, then do it. There's no shame in that. It gets a little bit frustrating if you're trying to do something and you're not able to do it. So practice a lot. There's nothing bad could come of that, right? So I'm clicking and dragging and clicking and dragging. So again, that's the key. So I'm clicking and dragging while holding my shift key. I'm not releasing my mouse until I get it to the size that I want. Clicking and dragging out. So again, I'll walk you through my process here. So I'm pressing and holding the shift key while I make this entire shape. Okay, so my mouse is not pressed yet, but I'm going to press it in right now. Press and hold the mouse while holding the shift key. Shift key stays pressed in, releasing the mouse, coming over directly across. Press and hold the mouse and release the mouse right there. Shift key is still pressed in. Okay, coming to complete my path, press and hold the mouse. Shift key still in. Release the mouse button right about there. Okay, let's walk you through that one more time. So shift key is pressed in and will remain pressed in until I have completed my shape. Okay, press and hold the mouse button. Release the mouse button. Shift key still pressed in. Press and hold the mouse button, drag out, release the mouse button. Press and hold the mouse button, drag out, release the mouse button. Okay, one more. Shift key remains pressed in the entire shape. Press and hold the mouse button, release the mouse button. Come over to the side, press and hold the mouse button, release the mouse button. Press and hold the mouse button, release the mouse button. Okay, there we go. We made some eggs and some circles and all sorts of fun shapes.